Have you ever worn your busyness like a badge of honor, like I have? I used to think that this was the cool thing to do. Busy was cool. Oftentimes, being busy and having a packed schedule can make us feel like we're living a full and productive life, right? But hustling between events and commitments and all the things doesn't necessarily mean we're living life to the fullest at all. And actually, it probably means we aren't. So today, I wanted to bring you a conversation that I had with Michelle Grosser on her podcast, The Calm Mom, where we talk about how to ditch the hustle culture and intentionally plan our goals based on our season of life. In this episode, you'll learn how to protect yourself from the hustle culture while working toward your goals, how to turn your passion and purpose into impact and income, and how to craft a personalized game plan that works for the capacity you have in different seasons. I think this is going to be super refreshing for you, so let's dive in. Hey friend, welcome to Pursuing Goals God's Way. Have you thought about finally starting that business now that your kids are older? Do you ever stay awake wondering how to mesh your passions into purposeful work? Do you have big, ambitious goals but feel overwhelmed or even unqualified to pursue them? Hey, I'm Gabe. Not too long ago, I longed for the confidence to start an online business. I just wanted to make a difference outside my home bubble using my gifts. But I kept telling myself that I wasn't good enough, I didn't know enough, and I didn't have enough time. Until I realized something huge. My kids need me to be their example, and they need to see me win. And yours do too. In this podcast, you will learn how to clarify your goals, plan with purpose, and ditch your distractions. If you're ready to make an impact and an income, all for the glory of God, then you're in the right place. As an avid runner, I believe life is one massive marathon. It's up to you to run your own race and to finish it well. So lace up those running shoes, pop in your earbuds, and let's do this thing.
Gabe, welcome to the Calm Mom podcast. So grateful to have you with us today.
I'm excited to be here, Michelle. Super excited for this conversation.
Likewise. So we're going to talk about a lot of things today. We were just talking before we hit record. We might bust some myths, or we might let an invitation for some aha moments for some of you who find yourself on the go all the time, which is very easy to get sucked into as moms. But before we jump into that, would you take a moment and just let us know a little bit about yourself and your family and maybe what you've got going on?
Absolutely. So I have a full life, like all of you listening do. I have 3 boys, all in different ages, elementary, middle school, and high school. One is a junior and he's an elite gymnast. So our schedule is a bit crazy and we're in recruiting season right now for NCAA. So that's full. And then I also homeschool my older 2 boys, and my oldest is doing college classes as well. And my youngest is in a local charter school, probably bringing him home next year. So that's pretty exciting. I do work outside of the home. Well, I work from home, but I work in an hourly doing success coaching for an entrepreneurship membership and programs. And then I also have my own business where I help women turn their passion and purpose into impact and income, all for the glory of God. And I do that by helping them craft personalized goal strategies and also business strategies so that they can do it in the season that they're in with the capacity that they have. And it all kind of started out with me just wanting to be an author. Like, that's how I started my online business, because I was told, oh, now you need a business with your book. And so, yeah, here I am.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Okay, so first of all, did you guys notice that in all of that, she didn't say it's so busy or I'm so busy? The word that I heard was that your life is very full. And I'm assuming that word choice was with intention. So tell us a little bit, because I try to do the same thing, and it's not just semantics. There's so much power in what we speak over our lives, right? And the words that come out of our mouth. So I just want to hear from you a little bit about why you choose to say that your life is full and not so busy.
Yeah, you are so right, Michelle. There is so much power in our words. How we speak is how we live. Like it will root into us what we believe, and it'll kind of stem into our belief systems. And so I used to say I'm busy, or people will be like, how are you? Oh, I'm just so busy. And you know what? That we're just kind of saying that and speaking that over our life. And that's something that I didn't want for myself. I don't want to be busy. But you know what? I'm in a season of fullness. Like, I have kids' activities. I work full time. I have my own business. I'm trying to run the home. I'm all over the place. I'm a glorified Uber driver, right? So I do have so much going on, but I want to love my life. And
Yeah.
I'm in this season of hard. But when I say it's a full life instead of a busy life, it helps remind me that I'm where I need to be and I'm doing the things I need to do. And it's each thing that I have is a priority right now. Right. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of why I choose full instead of busy. Busy to me just feels rushed and hectic and hustle culture.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I actually was speaking to another group of women from my church, and I was like, man, 2024 is the year. Like, you will not hear me say that I am busy one time. Like, I'm getting super intentional about this because I'm completely on the same page as you. I think it's so powerful, and I think so often we equate busy to productive, and I think that is not true. And it kind of, you were alluding to it when you were talking about hustle culture. So, can you tell us a little bit about maybe the messaging that we're being sent about the value of hustle culture, where it's coming from? You're more in the business space than I am, but even the things like the Boss Babe accounts and the whatever, the mom, hustle mama, whatever that's coming at us, um, maybe where it's coming from, and then maybe some of the impact that we might not be so aware of being a part of hustle culture or wanting to be part of hustle culture.
There's so much here. And I will tell you, I lived in hustle culture for so long. And people might say I'm in hustle culture right now just because of the capacity that I have right now, the
Yeah.
things that I am doing, but I do not feel like I'm in hustle culture. But when even coming into motherhood, I just felt like I was supposed to be doing something more. I need to do this and that. And we have all these expectations where we should be able to do all the things. We should be super mom and all this. And I felt like a failure because I
Mm,
couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up with the Joneses. I couldn't keep up with, what it looked like to be a good mom. I wasn't like, I'm not a big play. I don't want to sit and play Legos and do those things. That's just not who I am. I want to have these conversations with my kids. I want to bring them and help them experience things. But like, I did not have the Pinterest mom look. My birthday parties weren't that way. But it's like the more you do, the better you are, right?
mm,
And the more you do, the more productive you are. And that I was caught in that lie for so long, and I just burned out. And
mhm,
I wasn't no any longer good to anybody either. Like my work suffered, my kids suffered, my husband suffered because I was trying to do all. I was a yes person. I would say yes to everything because I wanted to please everybody and help everybody. And that to me is hustle culture. Hustle
mhm.
culture is not knowing our boundaries or not knowing our priorities, or maybe even knowing our priorities, but not sticking to our priorities, not having those boundaries for ourselves and actually living within them. Because guess what? We are human and we have limitations. We're not limitless. We can't do everything. Now we can do a lot of things. We just can't do them all at the same time. And
Mhm.
so that's hustle culture to me, trying to do all the things. So like in business, what I see a lot of entrepreneurs mistake what this mistake I see is that they're trying to be everywhere and be
Mhm.
everything for everyone. Either they're trying to, try and teach everybody, not narrowing it down to a specific type of person, or they're trying to be on Instagram and X and LinkedIn and do a YouTube channel and do a podcast. And I'm telling you, that is hustle culture to the max because it's better for us to be in just a couple places and do those couple places really, really well. That is
Yes.
productivity, right? And so that's a mindset that I had to learn. I've always held about 3 different jobs or roles, probably since high school, really, since college. Like in college, I always did that too. And I've learned I needed to learn how to slow down my body because I was
Mhm.
wearing out and I wasn't able to be the person that I needed to be for the people who
Mm.
mattered in my life.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I relate to this in so many ways. Um, I was on a podcast a few months ago and someone was reading my bio and then they're like, "Man, you're like a variety pack." And I'm like, "I know. Like I have so much going on." And the thing about hustle culture is I think we glorify it, right? And it's like something that we think we aspire to, but when you're in hustle culture, like no one wants to be in hustle culture, right? Like where we feel exhausted, we have a short fuse, we're burnt out, all of these different things. So something that you said that I want to hear more about is you talked about you've been able to increase your capacity,
Mhm.
right? So you do a lot of things, you have a lot going on, but it doesn't feel like a hustle to you. And you talked about boundaries, you talked about doing less better. But teach us some of the ways in which you have been able to grow that capacity, or for people who are listening who are like, I have a lot going on, but I'm just like, I'm at my end with everything. How do we grow our capacity in healthy ways that are actually productive?
That's such a good question. And one thing that I want to say too is when I was in that household culture, I thought it was a badge of honor to be busy.
Hmm.
And I thought it was
Oh,
a
yeah.
badge of honor to have so many things because people were like, how do you do it all?
Oh,
You
it feels
know, it
good, right?
does. It's
When someone like wants to plan something and you're like, well, let me see if I can make time. And it's like, oh my goodness. Like I know I have said those things and now I would roll my eyes like, give me a
yeah.
break. Yeah.
Absolutely. But then one thing I've learned, especially just even this last season, like I've been learning to slow down even more. But
Yeah.
when you are so full and you have no capacity left, you can't go be a good neighbor. You can't
No.
be a good friend. You don't have that room to be able to even account for emergencies. And so I wanted to have that room to be able to be giving of my time or attention where I felt like I needed to be. And so that's another reason I feel like slowing down is such a good thing. And also slowing down, knowing our boundaries. So
Yeah.
I would say learning to how to increase our capacity. And there's a law, I can't remember what the rule is called. It's like Parkinson's law or something like that.
Yeah.
Essentially, like whatever is in your season, sometimes we just have those seasons that are very full, but
Yep.
whatever's in there, we can get to the capacity of what we need. And
Mhm.
so sometimes you hear like, I don't know how you do it all. I can hardly manage the home and be a good mom, right? Well, that's the
Yeah.
season you're in. So that's why it
Yeah.
feels that way. No matter what, whatever we put into it is what we do, right? And so
Mhm.
having boundaries is one of the first steps to actually feeling like you have more capacity because then you know what you're willing to say yes to and you know what you're willing to say no to. And that's really hard sometimes. And especially like in the business world, it's really hard because there's a lot of opportunities that come and you want to say yes to them because you're like, oh, well, that might be the time I'm going to grow. Maybe that's where I'm
Mhm.
going to find my next client or that's where I'm going to get the next sale. But a lot of opportunities look great, but they're actually distractions to what our priority is. So
Mhm.
having that discernment and going, is this going to get me closer to the goal or my priorities that I have right now, or is it
Yeah.
going to distract me from them? That's a really great question to have as you're kind of working on your goals and things. And then the other thought of that as well is that with boundaries, sometimes it's okay to lead with no because you can
Mhm.
always say yes later.
That's right.
So, and then also knowing what you're willing to say yes to. Like, think
Mhm.
about the few things that you know you will say yes to, and then say no to everything else. Essentially, you're not offending the person who you're saying no to. I think that's a hard thing for people pleasers. They're like, but I don't want them to be mad at me. But I know I'd be good at that, right? I'm good at a lot of things but
Yeah.
I won't be my best if I'm doing all the things.
Right.
But you're not going to offend them. They're thinking more about themselves than they are about you. It's okay. So don't think that your no is going to harm them that much, right? They're going to find
Yeah.
someone else to fill that role. And I had to
Yeah.
learn that even just walking away. I was in restaurant management for a long time when I had little kids. So I was working 60
Wow.
plus hours, holidays, weekends, had to fill in when it was a lot. And I did step away and I stepped away in a season where it didn't look like I should. Like my husband, literally, I just had my third kid and
Yeah.
came home. Well, I came out home on maternity leave a few weeks before I had him. And that same day, my husband came home because he was let go from his job. And I was like, but I was supposed to be a stay at home mom. We made this decision. And guess what? I didn't go back. After my maternity leave, I still stepped away because I felt like that's where God was calling me. It was
Mhm.
scary. There was a lot of trust in that. My husband was out of a job for almost 9 months. So it was an
Wow.
intense season of trust. But I knew my capacity and I knew where I was
Yeah.
being called. And so sometimes we have to say no, even if it looks like I don't know how it's going to come about. I don't know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I think those are some of the main things. And just knowing that whatever you have in your season, as long as it's something that's necessary,
Mhm.
the space will come because of that Parkinson's law.
That's right. There's so much wisdom in that. Um, this year in 2024, my husband and I choose a word of the year every year.
Mm.
And this year, my word of the year is rest. And as someone who is real, like a professional doer, like so good at getting stuff done, this has been a real stretch for me. So as you talk about boundaries and shifting and focusing on rest, I want to hear about how that transition was for you, because I think for a lot of us who are really good at getting stuff done, slowing down like that can feel really uncomfortable. It can feel really unsafe for our nervous system because we've been going at such a speed for so long. So it takes time to retrain our brain that, like, no, wait, this is actually a good thing, right? This is actually a safe thing.
It is so hard. I'm going to tell you in the beginning, you will be resistant to it. It
Yeah.
will not come without challenges because I am definitely an achiever in all I do. I have ADHD brain and I want to do 500 million things at a time. That's just who I am. That's probably why I've always had so many roles. But I knew rest was important. I think something that we miss in this digital world is the white space.
Yes.
And it's the white space that helps us to be creative. It's the white space where we get these revelations, or we can have that quiet prayer time, or
Mm-hmm.
journal about our day. When was the last time you journaled about your day, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like, what comes of that? It's just such a release. And we don't have these releases anymore because we're just always going, going, going. Or if we're sitting, we're watching TV, we're listening to a podcast, we're doing something. There's no white space. And so when you do start slowing down, one of my favorite books, it's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John
Mm-hmm.
Mark
John Mark
Comer.
Comer.
I
Mm-hmm.
read it every year
I love it.
because I always start getting fast paced again.
Yeah.
But
I'll actually link it in the show notes for you guys because it's that good. Yeah.
it is so good. But it's just a reminder, like, right, white space is something that we need. So I would start with even just 5 minutes a day. Find 5 minutes of white space. It's uncomfortable. You're going to hate the 5 minutes. It's going to feel like an hour. But the more you do it, the more you realize it's so beneficial. And now, like, I used to be like, oh, yeah, my drive time is always podcast. I'm always learning. I'm always growing, because my word of the year is growth.
Mm.
But it's a different kind of growth. It's not growing my business to millions of dollars. It's growth in my business, yes, but it's also growth in myself. And part of that
Mm.
is growing to love rest. And
Wow.
it's growing for a lot of different things, right? Growing
Yeah.
in relationships, growing in my role as a mom. And so, yeah, taking that time. And now I drive with silence if is no one in my car. And I'm
Mm.
like, oh man, I feel like I need to look at my phone, or I feel like I need to listen to music or something, but it's so good. It's so
Yeah.
good. But yeah, I think that's really important, just starting with those baby steps. But
Yeah.
it's really one way I haven't burned out is by giving myself that rest, or also knowing, like, I'm in a season where I am working a lot, but my boundaries, and I'm working on this, is I'm not going to work weekends and I'm not going to work nights, no matter what.
Mm.
I don't care if I'm behind or if I feel like I'm behind on work, because we're always going to feel behind. That's a
Mm-hmm.
mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of have to retrain our brain to go, nope, I got my important priorities done this week.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, being in integrity with your non-negotiables, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learning to trust yourself when you say you're not going to do these things and then actually not doing them or doing them.
I have a question for you. Do you have a longing in your heart, a dream, if you will, that you've wanted to take action on, but you're scared to take the leap because you're afraid it won't happen? Maybe you're afraid you can't fit it into your life. Maybe it's hard to actually take the time for you to work on it. What if I told you that you could go after a goal that works in the season you're in with the capacity you have, ditching the hustle culture altogether? If you're interested in learning how to take your goal to the finish line and still have the family time that you crave, then you need to register for my free on-demand workshop called The 3 Pillars to Setting and Crushing Goals in a Stressless, No-Hustle Way. In this workshop, you will learn the clarity you need to make your dream real to you without worrying about how it will all come together. How to craft a simplified game plan that gets results in the season of life you're in. The secret sauce to taking action that works, even if you have limited time to make things happen. Plus, the number 1 mistake people make when goal setting that causes them to quit too soon. If you are more than ready to finally take that desire inside your heart from conception to the finish line, this is for you. You can register for the free workshop at redhotmindset.com/goals. You'll get access to a free workbook to take good notes during our time together as well. Again, that's redhotmindset.com/goals. I can't wait to host you inside.
One other thing that was kind of coming through for me while you were speaking that I want to talk about is that in order for us to say no to opportunities that come our way when it's not the right time or the right season or whatever, in order for you to do something like leave your job in a season where everyone was probably thinking that was a little crazy, but you trusting, right, that was where God was taking you. A lot of times saying no to these things, or actually the opposite, like wanting to get sucked into it, is because we're stuck in this scarcity mindset, right? That this is the opportunity, or I have to do this, or I have to do all the things, or I need to appear on every single social media platform. And that's really a loop of scarcity in our minds, right? That what he has for us isn't going to reach us if we don't go out and do all the things ourselves. So talk to me a little bit how you see scarcity factoring into like everything, I guess, related to hustle, or just like, I'm going to do it, right? Which is really what hustle is. It's like, I'm going to do it all.
Yeah, because scarcity mindset is I have to be in all these places because otherwise I'm not going to grow. Or I have to, I have FOMO a lot of the time, fear of missing out, when I say no to going out with friends, even because I'm like, well, what if they have a great conversation and I'm not a part of it, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes I just need rest. But the scarcity mindset, I think, comes from a control aspect. Like we want to control things. We want our plan to go exactly how we have written it out. If it varies a little bit, we're like, what's wrong? Maybe I need to quit, right? Like we talk about quitting all the time. Every day you probably think about it because it didn't go exactly like you wanted to. But I'm going to tell you, your plan is not going to happen in plan A for the most part. Maybe. Usually it comes to like plan F or G or Z or whatever. We just have to be willing to be flexible and to be willing to let go of that control a little bit. And part of that is like, I talk a lot about letting God lead in my business and in my life. And part of that is going, okay, here's my plan. This is what I think this is where I think I'm supposed to be, right? But I'm going to now give you the wheel and I'm going to do the work, because I mean, nothing happens if you're not in motion and you're not doing the work. Right. But I just want you to give me confirmations, give me peace. Like whenever I have peace, even if I'm in a busy season, right? When I feel so full, as long as I have peace, I know I'm going in the right direction. And that's kind of how I see my side of things. Like, okay, I have peace, I'm going to keep going. But when we have that scarcity mindset and trying to be everywhere, that peace isn't there. It definitely is unsettling, right? Because you're like, oh, or you wake up in the middle of the night, like, I forgot to post on Instagram and then I forgot to do this. Or, in the restaurant business, it was like, I forgot to give ranch to table 30. Oh my gosh, And so, but having that peace, but then like letting go and going, you know what, I'm doing what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing. I'm in these couple places where I can work really, really well. And then you got to let go of the results. And part of that too, I'll transition a little bit with goals. I love big, scary goals. Love it, love it, love it. I think we need a big vision. We need something that takes us out of our comfort zone, right? That's something hard. Like for me, one of the first goals that I actually had, I'm an avid runner. I think you're a runner too, Michelle. I think I heard that on a podcast, but my biggest goal was to qualify for the Boston Marathon. And it was a huge goal because I needed to cut almost an hour off my time, which is a lot for a runner, right? But it felt scary. And it's like, I needed to train for it. I needed to believe for it and do all these things. But I think a big, scary goal is good. But then if all we look at is that big, scary goal, that big vision, it's not going to happen because it's so far away. We don't really have the capacity to get there tomorrow. So we need to reverse engineer it and start small, break it up into these really bite-sized goals. And when I break them up into those bite-sized goals, I consider them projects. I don't want it to be a goal that I don't have control over. I want it to be like something that I can do every day to get me there. So for example, let's say I would love to have 10 new clients in my business. Well, I can't promise when those 10 clients are going to come, but I can do things to get there. So maybe that means I need to reach out to 100 people in a month. That is a great goal, right? If I hit that, I have succeeded. And most likely those 10 clients will come. But I'm not looking at, I need 10 clients. No, I'm looking at the things that I can do.
Right. And I'm sure it removes so much of the overwhelm, right? Because when we see that big, like sometimes we get stuck and we don't even start, or it's like analysis paralysis or whatever reason that we won't take that first step. But when you really break it down, it makes it a lot more approachable, I think, to have a plan to start.
Yeah. And you get wins. You see it. It's like you can actually see the results, because the hardest part of a goal is it's hard to see the result until you hit it. But when you have this as like, my goal is to talk to 10 people a week. My goal is to talk to 100 people a month. Like I can tell if I hit that or not. And that's a win.
That's great because you can measure that.
Mhm.
and it's doable. Okay, so talk to me a little bit when it comes to goals. We're recording this now in March, so we're a few months into the new year. I don't know if people listening have set goals or New Year's resolutions or whatever. But talk to me about some of the ways in which we can do the work on the front end with our goals to give us the greatest chance at success. I know that knowing our why and really doing some deep digging around why we want to achieve these things is really important. So talk to us about that, and then maybe anything else that you really love to teach about goal setting.
Yeah, I would say the why is the most important part, but it's not. I think a lot of times it's like, what's your why? All the things. But the real reason for it is because you need something deep that's going to help you to take action. And so I don't want a why that's meaningless. I don't want to, well, I want more time with my kids or something. Like that's a great why, but why?
But why? Keep going
What's gonna
deeper.
change in your life, right? So yeah, I kind of equate it to an exercise I do with clients is I'm going to be a little kid and I'm going to keep asking you why until we get to the real reason, right?
Mhm.
Why is the sky blue? Well, just because. Well, why? They want to know the why. And so finding that deep rooted why. And the biggest question to ask is what will change in my life if I hit this goal? And or the second question is an alternative. What won't change in my life if I don't hit this goal? And that is probably going to take you closer to that deep rooted why. And the why is there because it's going to help motivate you to do something if you keep it in front of you. That's why I say write down your why, write down your goal. It's not because you can see it and it's going to happen. It's because when you see it, it motivates you to take action to make it happen, right? And so that's like the first step. And I have a formula called the red hot formula for setting and crushing goals. And the first step is seeing it. And seeing it is really like figuring out that deep rooted why. What is it about the goal that really matters? What kind of an impact can you make with it, right? Maybe your goal isn't for yourself, because I do feel like sometimes we do things for others better than we do for ourselves. And so having that bigger impact, like how is this going to impact my community? How is this going to impact my family? We might work harder for that than we will for, ooh, I want to lose 10 pounds because I want to look good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so thinking about it in that term too. So seeing it is super important. But then the next step, and I think this is a step that gets missed a lot, is plan it. And because it's like, well, I need to just start doing things. If I don't do things, it's never going to happen. But if I take too much time to plan, that's a lot of work, right? But the plan matters so much because we need to have a roadmap. If you're driving somewhere you've never been and you don't know how to get there, it's going to be a lot harder to get there. Or if you're driving somewhere and there's an obstacle in the way, and there's a detour, you have to decide, am I going to try and figure out how to get around that detour, or am I going to go home? Right. And so we need to think about what's going to happen or what could happen. And that plan, I like to plan not just once, but I like to plan weekly. And that's where the priorities come in. I look at, okay, what do I have going on in my schedule this week? How much time can I commit to my goal? And then what priorities do I have? 1, 2, 3 priorities max, probably. You can't we can't just think that we can do everything. And so picking those few things, like if I only got this one thing done this week for my goal, I will be satisfied. Like that is an achievement, right? And then more is better. Like more is great, fine, whatever. But that one thing matters. And then that plan comes with flexibility. But that comes with the third step, which is doing it. Now we're going to take that plan, we're going to put it into action, right? Yeah. And we're testing it. Because you know what? It might, like I said, it might not be plan A, but we need to have flexibility with it. If emergency happens, okay, now we need to shift. Or if we're feeling pulled in a different direction, like we feel like God is saying, nope, I want you to go this way instead of that way in the fork in the road, then we got to shift and we have to maybe reassess our plan, but reassess the actions we're taking. Is it working? What's working? What's not working? What could I do better next week? Maybe what distractions came, and how can I alleviate that for next week? Or how maybe the distraction was an opportunity. Okay, what opportunities am I willing to do and say yes to, and what am I not? And everything else is a no. So those are my 3 steps. It's see it, plan it, do it. And the doing it happens until I say until. And that means until it happens, or until you feel very strongly called to letting it go. And letting it go, because people are always like, when do I do that? Because you want to give it your best shot, and especially if you're feeling called to it, there's a reason for that. And an obstacle getting in your way is not a good reason to let it go. The obstacles are there to grow us. They're there to refine us. We will become better. We will, like, growth. That's the word for me this year. They will grow you if you let them. But there is sometimes time to let it go too.
Yep. Well, that's great. I love it. And I think that breaks it down too, even within, like, I think sometimes we feel like we're not disciplined enough or we don't have the motivation enough. So when we can break it down like that and see it and then get to that step and actually have the courage to take the action, and then the momentum starts building, that's really helpful. Awesome. Okay. So this bit is so great. I'm believing there are women listening who are like, okay, I'm going to take a look at my pace. I'm going to take a look at my boundaries. I'm going to take a look at my goals, and really just an invitation to reassess. So I think that's beautiful.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time and I hope you did too. Before we go though, if you resonate with this episode, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or sharing it with a friend, as it helps grow the podcast. Also, if you're not a part of the Red Hot Accountability Club, what are you waiting for? It's a private online community away from the noise of social media that provides coaching, support, and encouragement as you go after your biggest goals in business or life in a stress-less, no hustle kind of way. Inside the club, you will own your own results, hold yourself accountable, and lean on others for support. If you've been looking for a simple, off social media way to grow, then this is it. Head on over to redhotmindset.com/RHA to learn more and join us today. Again, that's redhotmindset.com/RHA. And I can't wait to welcome you into the club. In all things I pray, you just run your race. I believe in you.